The chandelier cast a million fractured lights across the ballroom of the Whitmore Estate, turning silk gowns into oceans of liquid fire and diamond necklaces into captive constellations. It was my 52nd birthday, and the underworld's elite had gathered to pay homage to the man who had built an empire from blood and broken men. I stood at the head of the marble staircase, a glass of 18 our old Macallan in my hand, surveying my kingdom. The Rudy was a masterpiece of deception. Senators shook hands with smugglers. Investment bankers laughed with RMS dealers. The champagne flowed like the Hudson River, and everyone pretended not to know that the man celebrating his birthday had personally ordered the deaths of 37 men in the past decade alone. I was Victor Kane, and I had clawed my way from the gutters of Brooklyn to become the undisputed king of New York's shadow economy. My hands were clean tonight, manicured, wrapped around crystal. But my soul had been dirty for so long I'd forgotten what clean felt like. That was when I saw her, a small, trembling figure pressed against the FAR wall, clutching a frayed teddy bear with one missing eye. The child couldn't have been more than 3 years old. She was the daughter of my head housekeeper, Maria, a woman who had served me faithfully for 7 years, who cleaned my private study and never asked questions about the bloodstains on the Persian rugs. The little girl's name was Elena. I'd seen her before, always hovering at the edges of rooms, her dark eyes watching everything with an intensity that made grown men uncomfortable. Maria kept her hidden during events, but tonight the staff was overwhelmed, and Elena had slipped through. She was STA ring at me. No, STA ring past me, Tawa RD the grand staircase that led to the upper floors. Her tiny face was pale, her lips moving soundlessly. Something cold settled in my chest. I made my way through the crowd, nodding at the appropriate people, shaking the appropriate hands. The guests root for me the way the Reds see root for Moses, not out of respect, but out of fear. They knew what I was capable of. They'd heard the stories. Elena, I said softly, crouching down to her level. The teddy bear's single button eye gleamed in the candlelight. What are you doing here? Where's your mother? She didn't answer immediately. Her small hand shot out and grabbed my wrist with a grip that was astonishingly strong for a child her age. Her fingernails were bitten to the quick, and there was a smear of chocolate on her cheek that someone had forgotten to wipe away. Boom, she whispered. I froze. What did you say? Boom, she repeated, her voice trembling. Her eyes finally met mine, and I saw something there that made my blood run cold. Absolute, bone-deep terror. Boom, boom, boom. All the people go away. Bad men said so. My heart stopped beating for exactly 3 seconds. I had survived 52 years by trusting my instincts, and right now, every nerve in my body was screaming at me. Elena, listen to me ruefully, I said, keeping my voice calm. Where did you hear that? Who said it? She pointed Tawa RD the staircase again. The man with the funny eye. He talked to the other man in the kitchen. He said the Rudy goes boom, and then the big man is gone, and everything is theirs. The funny eye. That could only be one man. Americus Webb, my head of security for the past 3 years. Americus had a glass eye, a souvenir from a knife fight in a Moscow alley. He'd always been loyal, efficient, and utterly dependable. Or so I'd thought. I rose to my feet slowly, the muscles in my jaw tightening until I could feel my teeth grinding against each other. The music swelled, a Strauss waltz that filled the ballroom with elegant, dizzying sound. 200 guests whirled around me, laughing, drinking, and dancing on a powder keg. Elena, I need you to go find your mother right now, I said, my voice rely above a whisper. Tell her to take you to the panic room in the East Wing. Can you do that for me? She nodded frantically, clutching her teddy bear. Are you going to make the boom go away, Mr. Victor? I smiled, but it was the smile of a man who is about to unleash hell. I'm going to make everything go away, little one. Now run. She scurried off into the crowd, a tiny mouse to sape, ring among the lions. I watched her go for exactly 5 seconds, then turned and made my way Tawa RD the kitchen. The security team was supposed to sweep the building before every major event. They'd done their job, or so I'd been told. But Americus Webb had been in charge of those sweeps. Americus Webb, who now stood in the kitchen with his back to me, speaking into a cell phone with a voice that was too low for normal conversation. 5 minutes, maybe less. He'll be on the staircase for the toast, and then I grabbed him by the collar and slammed him against the industrial refrigerator. The metal dented with a sound like thunder, and the foam clattered to the floor. Americus's face went white, then red, then a shade of purple I'd only ever seen on corpses. "Victor, shut up," I said, my voice softer than a whisper and infinitely more dangerous. "You have exactly 3 seconds to tell me where the bombs are before I rip your other eye out and make you eat it." He tried to speak, but all that came out was a strangled gurgle. My hand was pressing against his throat, cutting off his air supply. I relaxed my grip slightly, just enough for him to gasp. "Ballroom. Under the stage," he wheezed. "For Ridges. Remote detonator." I didn't want to. "Who's your handler?" He hesitated. That hesitation cost him 3 fingers. I broke them one by one, listening to the crack of bone like it was the finest music. "Say, Ruder."
Carter Ambrose.
America screamed, TRS streaming down his face. "He paid me. Said we'd split the empire. Said you were going to kill me anyway, that you'd found out about." "Found out about what?" "The shipments. The Russian deal. He told me you were going to have me whacked, that I had to." The man's words dissolved into incoherent sobbing. I released him, and he crumpled to the floor like a rag doll. I stood over him for a moment, processing the information. C.A. Ruder Ambrose. My most trusted lieutenant. The man I had mentored for 12 years. The man who was supposed to take over the business when I retired. The son I'd never had. He'd been waiting for this moment. He'd been patient, methodical, and utterly ruthless. And now he was going to blow up my birthday party with me at the center of it. "Get up," I said to Americus. He scrambled to his feet, cradling his broken hand. "You're going to tell me everything. Where's the detonator, who else is involved, and if you lie to me even once, I'll make what I did to your hand feel like a gentle kiss on the cheek." I had 3 minutes until the toast. 3 minutes until I was supposed to walk up those stairs and become a reyr to my own ambition. The kitchen staff had frozen in place, spatulas suspended midair, eyes wide with terror. I ignored them. They were loyal, all of them. They'd been with me for years, and they knew what happened to people who crossed me. Americus Webb was the exception. And he was about to become a cautionary retailed. "Detonator," I repeated, gripping his collar. Where is it? His broken fingers twitched his jacket pocket. I reached in and pulled out a small device, remote trigger, sleek and black, with a red button that seemed to pulse like a beating heart. 1 click and 200 people would become red mist. "Who else? I don't know," he cried out as I twisted his damaged hand. "I don't know. C.A. Ruder doesn't tell me everything. But there's someone else, someone in the family. He said there was a traitor close to you, someone who would get the business after you were gone." The family. My family. The wife who'd left me 10 years ago. The son who died in a car accident that I'd always suspected wasn't an accident. The brother who tried to have me killed when we were both young and stupid. My family was a nest of vipers, and I'd been too blind to see it. "Get to the panic room," I said to the kitchen staff. "All of you.
Now."
They didn't need to be told twice. They fled through the service door, leaving me alone with a weeping man and a bomb that was counting down to oblivion. The music had stopped. That was the signal. In exactly 90 seconds, I was supposed to walk up the grand staircase, turn to face my guests, and deliver a speech about legacy and loyalty and the importance of family. C.A. Ruder would be watching from the ballroom, his handsome face arranged in an expression of devoted admiration. He'd always been a good actor. Too good. I'd let myself be fooled because I wanted to believe that someone, somewhere, could be trusted. I pocketed the detonator and dragged Americus Webb into the service elevator. We descended to the basement, where the maintenance tunnels ran like veins beneath the estate. I shoved him into a storage room and locked the door. "Stay here," I said through the steel. "We're going to have a very long conversation once this is over." I took the stairs 2 at a time, my heart pounding against my ribs. The ballroom was silent, waiting for me. I could feel the eyes of 200 people boring into my back as I emerged from the service entrance, brushing dust from my Italian suit. Victor? C.A. Reuter Ambrose's voice rang out across the ballroom, wa-rm and affectionate. There you are. We were getting worried. The champagne's losing its fizz. I forced a smile and ascended the staircase. Each step felt like climbing a mountain of broken glass. I could see the stage at the bottom, the velvet curtains behind which America's Webb had hidden 4 pounds of C for plastic explosive. The guests applauded as I reached the top. I raised my hand for silence, and the applause died away into an expectant hush. My friends, I began. My family, thank you for coming tonight. C.A. Reuter stood in the front row, beaming up at me. He'd always been photogenic, blonde hair, blue eyes, the kind of face that belonged on magazine covers. Next to him stood Grace Whitmore, my fiancée of 6 months. She was smiling too, but there was something wrong with her smile. It didn't reach her eyes. Grace. The woman who'd promised to love me until death did us part. The woman who'd helped me build this empire, who'd stood by me through the darkest nights of my soul. I had never once suspected her. I'd loved her with the desperate intensity of a man who'd forgotten how to love anything else. I've been thinking a lot about legacy. I continued, my voice steady despite the turmoil raging inside me. About what we leave behind. About the people we trust to CARRY on our work after we're gone. C.A. Reuter's smile flickered. Just slightly. He was getting nervous. I've come to realize something tonight, I said, my eyes scanning the crowd. Loyalty is a precious thing. More precious than gold. More precious than power. And when you find it, you have to protect it. You have to fight for it. You have to be willing to burn the world down for the people who truly matter. I paused, letting the words sink in. My hand drifted to my jacket pocket, where the detonator lay cold and waiting. C.A. Reuter, I said, my voice dropping to a whisper that somehow C.A. ride through the silent ballroom. Come up here. I want you to stand beside me. He hesitated. For one glorious moment, I saw the mask slip, saw the FIA-R flash across his perfect features. Then the mask was back in place, and he was climbing the stairs with the effortless grace of a panther. Of course, boss, he said. Whatever you need. He reached the top and stood beside me. I put my arm around his shoulders, pulling him close. The gesture looked affectionate. It was anything but, I know, I whispered in his ear, so softly that no one else could hear. I know everything. And I'm going to make you watch as I dismantle your little plan piece by piece. His body went rigid. I felt the tension coil through him like a snake about to strike. Don't, I warned. Don't even think about it. If you so much as blink wrong, I'll kill you right here, in front of everyone, and they'll applaud. They'll think it's part of the show. Victor, I don't know what. Save it. The speech is over. Now we're going to take a walk. I steered him down the stairs, my grip iron tight on his shoulder. The crowd root before us, murmuring in confusion. Grace stepped forward, her painted lips rooting in a question. Victor, what's going on? Nothing, darling, I said, forcing my voice to remain pleasant. Just a small business matter. I'll be back in a moment. Her eyes flickered to C.A. Reuter, then back to me. There was something in her gaze, calculation, perhaps, or regret. I filed it away for later examination. I led C.A. Reuter through the ballroom, past the stage with its hidden bombs, the private study at the back of the house. The study was soundproofed. It had to be, given the nature of my work. Once the door closed behind us, I let the mask fall. You've got balls, kid, I said, shoving him against the bookshelf. I'll give you that. 12 years I've known you. 12 years I've treated you like a son. And this is how you repay me? Victor, please, don't. Don't you dare beg. It's beneath you. I pulled the detonator from my pocket and held it up. You planted 4 bombs under that stage. Enough to kill everyone in that room. Including Grace. Including me. What was the plan? C.A. Reuter, blow us all to hell and walk away with the empire. He didn't answer. He didn't have to. The guilt was written all over his face. Who else? I demanded. Who else was in on it? You didn't plan this alone. You're SMART, but you're not that SMART. He pressed his lips together, refusing to speak. I understood that. We were both men of the underworld. We'd been trained to withstand pain, to keep our mouths shut no matter, but I knew his weakness. I knew the one thing that would break him. Your mother, I said softly. She's in the hospital, isn't she? Cancer. You've been paying for her treatment, out of your own pocket. But the money's running out, isn't it? His eyes widened. How did you know? I know everything, C.A. Ruder. I make it my business to know everything. I leaned in close, my voice dropping to a murmur. I'll pay for the treatment. I'll give her the best doctors in the world, the kind of CA that money can't normally buy. But first, you're going to tell me everything. And then you're going to help me take down the people who thought they could steal from me. He broke. Just like I knew he would. It was Grace, he whispered. She's been planning this for a year. She wanted the empire for herself. She wanted to rule, and she needed me to help her. I felt the world tilt around me.
Grace.
My beautiful, perfect Grace. She's not who she seems, C.A. Ruder continued, his voice shaking. She's been working with the Russians. She's the one who set up the deal that went wrong, the one that cost us $2 million RS. She sabotaged it on purpose, to make you look weak, to give her an excuse to take control. How did she plan to take control after I was dead? He swallowed hard. She was going to RRY someone else. Someone from the Russian syndicate. They were going to split my shari and run everything together. I was just a pawn, Victor.
She used me.
She's been using all of us. A cold fury settled into my bones. It was the kind of fury that didn't burn, it froze. The kind of fury that turned a man into something ancient and terrible, something that couldn't be reasoned with or be regained with. The bombs, I said. Were they meant to kill me specifically? Yes. The remote detonator was set to trigger on your voice. When you gave the toast, when you said the phrase legacy and loyalty, that was the signal. The bombs would have gone off the moment you finished speaking. I closed my eyes and saw it. The explosion, the fire, the screams. All those innocent people caught in the crossfire of a power struggle that had nothing to do with them. Elena. I thought of her small face, her terrified eyes, her desperate warning. If not for her, I would be dead. We would all be dead. I want you to go back out there, I said to C.A. Ruder. I want you to pretend that nothing has changed. You're going to go to Grace, and you're going to tell her that I'm suspicious, that she needs to initiate the plan EARLY. You're going to lure her into the study, where I'll be waiting. He nodded, his face pale. And then we're going to show her what happens to people who betray Victor Kane. The study door opened, and Grace stepped in with the grace of a dancer. She'd changed into a darker gown, emerald green that shimmered like a serpent's skin. Diamonds dripped from her ears, her throat, her wrists, all of which I had given her, all of which she had worn while plotting my death. Victor, she said, her voice honey and arsenic. C.A. Ruder told me you were upset. What's wrong? Darling, did something happen at the party? I was standing behind the desk, my back to her. I'd been studying the monitors for the past 5 minutes, memorizing every detail of her treachery. Come here, I said softly. I want to show you something. She approached slowly, her heels clicking against the hardwood floor. I could feel her presence behind me, feel the RMTH of her body radiating through the expensive fabric of her dress. Look at this, I said, gesturing to the monitor that showed the ballroom. Do you see that woman there, the one in the red dress? Grace leaned four-way RD, her breath ghosting across my neck. I see her. Who is she? She's a mother. 3 children, all under the age of 10. Her husband is a banker who launders money for the CA hotels. Not a particularly RLY good man, but she loves him. She has no idea what he does for a living. Grace was silent for a moment. Why are you telling me this? Because in exactly 30 seconds, her husband is going to receive a phone call informing him that his wife has been targeted for assassination. He'll panic, he'll break his contract with the CA hotels, and he'll come to me for protection. It's a game, Grace. Everything is a game. I play it well because I've been playing it longer than most people have been alive. I turned to face her, My eyes cold and harrowed. I know about the bombs, Grace. I know about the Russians. I know about the man you were planning to ROI after I was dead. The color drained from her face. It was almost beautiful, watching her composure shatter like glass. Victor, I don't know what you're talking about. Don't. I've had enough lies for one night. I stepped closer, backing her against the desk. She trembled slightly, but she didn't run. She was braver than I'd given her credit for. You were going to use my own voice to trigger the detonator. You'd memorized my speech, knew exactly when to press the button. Were you going to be in the room? Grace, were you going to watch me burn? I loved you, she whispered, her eyes glistening with TRS that might have been real. I truly loved you.
No.
You loved the power. You loved the money. You loved what I could give you. I grabbed her chin, forcing her to meet my gaze. But you never loved me. And now you're going to pay for that mistake. Her hand shot out, a stiletto blade épée ring from somewhere in her dress. I caught her wrist before she could strike, twisting until the knife clattered to the floor. She gasped in pain, but there was something else in her eyes now. Respect. You see, I said softly. I always know. I know everything. I knew you'd try to kill me the moment you were cornered. And I was ready. I underestimated you, she admitted. I won't make that mistake again. Good. Because you won't get another chance. The door swung open, and C.A. Reuter Ambrose stumbled in. His face was pale, his eyes wild. Victor, there's something you need to see. The Russians, they've taken hostages. They're in the basement. I released Grace and turned to face him. How many hostages? All of them. The kitchen staff, the housekeepers, the musicians. They've got guns, Victor. They're threatening to shoot everyone if we don't cooperate. Cooperate with what? They want you. They want to trade your life for the hostages. I laughed. It was a cold, bitter sound that echoed off the walls. Trade my life for a bunch of servants and musicians? They must think I'm a fool. Victor, there's more. C.A. Reuter hesitated, his eyes flicking Tawa RD Grace. They have Elena. She was hiding in the panic room, but the Russians found her. They're using her as leverage. The world went red. Not the red of anger, but the red of something far more primal. Something that had been sleeping in my soul for decades, waiting to be awakened, Elena. The child who'd saved my life. The child who'd been brave enough to in me, even when she was terrified. They touched her? I asked, my voice dangerously quiet. No, not yet. But they will if you don't give yourself up. They want you in the basement. Una Remed alone. Grace was smirking behind me. I could feel it without looking. She thought she'd won. She thought the Russians would kill me and leave her in RG of the ashes. I turned to C.A. Reuter. Prepare the backup. What backup? The emergency protocol. The one I told you about when you first joined the family. His eyes widened. You have a protocol for this. I have a protocol for everything. I walked to the wall behind my desk and pressed a hidden panel. The entire wall slid away, revealing an arsenal that would have made a general weep with envy. And now we're going to WAR. I selected a pair of Berettas, checking the magazines with practiced efficiency. Then I strapped a combat knife to my ankle and slid a smaller pistol into my waistband. The arsenal was my legacy, my insurance policy against the day when everyone I trusted turned against me. That day had come, Grace, I said, not turning around. You're coming with me. Victor, I don't think. It wasn't a request. I grabbed her ARM and pulled her Tawa RD the door. You're going to be my shield. If the Russians try anything, you're the first one who dies. She paled, but she didn't argue. She knew better than to push me. C.A. Reuter led the way through the service corridors, his footsteps echoing in the dim light. The basement entrance was guarded by 2 Russians, both armed with assault rifles. They saw us coming and raised their weapons. Freeze, one of them shouted. No closer. I shoved Grace 4-way road. She stumbled, falling to her knees in front of the RDS. The Russians looked down at her, confused. I've brought you a gift, I said. She's the one who planned everything. She's the mastermind. Take her. Let the hostages go. The RDS exchanged a glance. The one on the left spoke into his radio, his voice too low to hear. After a moment, the radio crackled with a response. The boss says he wants you, not her. Come in alone, or we START shooting hostages. I could hear muffled crying from beyond the door. Maria's voice and the high-pitched wail of a terrified child. Elena! She was in there, surrounded by killers, and every instinct I had was screaming at me to cha RG through the door and rip them APART with my BA-re hands. But that wasn't how this game was played. I had to be SMA ruder. I had to be colder. Tell your boss that I'm coming in, I said. But I'm bringing Grace with me. She's useless to you dead. If you want to punish her, you can do it after I'm gone. The Gua RD spoke into his radio again. This time, the response was immediate. Fine. Both of you. Hands up. No weapons. I raised my hands, motioning for Grace to do the same. She scrambled to her feet, her face a mask of fear, and fury. I could see the wheels turning behind her eyes, calculating her chances of survival. I didn't see what happened to her. The only thing that mattered was getting Elena out alive. The Gua RDS patted us down, confiscating my Berettas and the knife from my ankle. They missed the smaller pistol in my waistband. They were too focused on my obvious weapons to notice the one that mattered. Move. One of them growled, shoving me Tawa RD the door. I walked into the basement with my hands still raised, Grace stumbling behind me. The room was a chaos of hostages and gunmen, but I only had eyes for one person. Elena was on the floor the back wall, her small body curled into a ball. Maria was beside her, shielding her with her own body. The child's face was streaked with TRS, her teddy bear clutched to her chest. When she saw me, her eyes widened. Mr. Victor, she whispered. You came. Of course I came, little one. I smiled, and for the first time all night, it wasn't a mask. I told you. I'm going to make everything go away. The Russian leader stepped forward RD, his face twisted with contempt. He was a big man, broad-shouldered, with a SCAR that ran from his temple to his jaw. He ride a silver-plated pistol that gleamed in the dim light. Victor Kane, he said, his accent thick. The mighty king of New York. Look at you now. Surrounded, disarmed, at my mercy. I wouldn't count on the mercy party, I said. You've got about 30 seconds before things get very unpleasant for you. He laughed. Bravado. I expected nothing less. But it won't save you. Your empire is mine. Your money is mine. Your woman, he gestured at Grace, was always mine. Grace stiffened beside me. What are you talking about? Didn't you know? Darling, the Russian's smile widened. I was the one who recruited you. I was the one who fed you the plan. You thought you were using me, but I was using you the whole time. You were nothing more than a tool, and now that you've served your purpose, you're disposable. The betrayal on her face was almost poetic. I almost felt sorry for her. The Russian leader's laughter echoed off the concrete walls, a grating sound that made my teeth ache. He was enjoying this. He thought he had won. He thought the great Victor Kane had finally been brought to his knees. Did I let him believe it? For now, you see, he said, gesturing Tawa Ardimi with his silver pistol. The mighty have fallen. All that power, all that money, and in the end, you're just a man like anyone else. Bleeding, crying, begging for mercy. Actually, I said, I've never begged for anything in my life. But if you want to see begging, I can show you what it looks like. It's not going to be me doing it. The Russian smile faltered for just a moment. He recovered quickly, but I'd seen the flicker of doubt. That was all I needed. Enough talk, he said. Kneel. I didn't move. I'm not kneeling for anyone, especially not for a man who's about to die. You think you can kill me, you're unarmed, surrounded by my men. You have no power here. Power isn't about guns, I said, my voice dropping to a whisper. Power is about information. And I have all the information I need. I reached into my waistband and pulled out the hidden pistol. The movement was faster than any of them could react. Before the Russian leader could raise his weapon, I had the BA-rel pressed against his forehead. Now, I said, my voice calm and conversational, let's talk about how this is going to end. The basement erupted into chaos. The other Russians raised their weapons, but they couldn't shoot without hitting their leader. I had them exactly where I wanted them. "Tell your men to drop their weapons," I said. "Or I'll paint this wall with your brains." The leader swallowed hard. "You won't shoot. You're bluffing." "Try me." He read into my eyes for a long moment. What he saw there must have convinced him, because he slowly raised his hand. "Put down your weapons," he said. "All of you." The Russians hesitated. They looked at each other, uncertainty flickering in their eyes. "Do it," the leader snapped. "Are you trying to get me killed?" The weapons clattered to the floor. I motioned for C.A. Reuter to gather them up, and he moved quickly, collecting the rifles and pistols with the efficiency of a man who'd been waiting for this moment his entire life. "You see," I said to the leader. "I told you. You should have brought an army." I dragged him toward the hostages, keeping the pistol pressed firmly against his forehead. The other Russians stood frozen, their hands raised, their faces pale. "Let them go," I said to C.A. Reuter. "All of them. Take them upstairs, get them to safety." C.A. Reuter nodded and began ushering the hostages toward the exit. Maria clutched Elena to her chest, her eyes wide with relief. The little girl was still clutching her teddy bear, her face buried in her mother's shoulder. "Mr. Victor," she whispered as they passed me. "Are you coming with us, soon, little one?" I said. "I have some things to take Ria first, but I'll see you soon. I promise." She nodded, her dark eyes trusting me completely. That trust was a weight I hadn't known I was carrying. It was heavier than any gun, more valuable than any fortune. Did I watch them go, then turn my attention back to the Russian leader. His face was streaked with sweat, his bravado completely gone. "Please," he whispered. "I was just following orders. I didn't want to hurt anyone." "Everyone says that." I released him and stepped back, my pistol still trained on him. "But here's the thing about following orders. You still have a choice. You always have a choice. And you chose to come into my home, threaten my people, and terrorize a child. I can give you information," he said desperately. "I can tell you everything. Who's behind it, who paid me, where the money came from. I already know most of it, but you can fill in the blanks." I nodded toward the back of the basement. "Walk." He stumbled forward, his hands raised. I followed him through the maze of pipes and machinery, past the storage rooms and the utility closets, until we reached the private dock on the Hudson River. The water was black, lapping against the concrete with a soft, rhythmic sound. The city lights glimmered in the distance, beautiful and cold. "Here's what's going to happen," I said. "You're going to tell me everything about my brother's operation, where he's hiding, who's protecting him, how many men he has. And then you're going to swim back to whatever rat hole you crawled out of. And if I refuse, I'll shoot you and dump your body in the river. The choice is yours."
He talked.
He talked for an hour, spilling every secret he knew. The safe houses, the contacts, the bank accounts, the network of informants that Damien had spent years building. By the time he was finished, I had a complete picture of my brother's operation. That I kept my promise. I let him go. He stripped off his jacket and dove into the black water, swimming toward the New Jersey shore with desperate, ragged strokes. I watched him until he disappeared into the darkness, then turned and walked back through the basement. The estate was quiet now, the chaos of the night finally settling into an uneasy peace. C.A. Reuter met me at the service entrance. His face was grim, his hands still trembling with leftover adrenaline. "The hostages are safe," he said. "I've got men sweeping the grounds, making sure no one else is lurking. The guests have been released to their homes." "What about Grace?" "She's in the study. Underworld. She tried to run, but we caught her at the gate." I nodded.
"Good.
I'll deal with her in a moment. First, I need to see Elena." Maria was in the servants' quarters, her daughter asleep in her ARS. The child had finally succumbed to exhaustion, her tiny face peaceful despite everything she'd been through. "She's been asking for you," Maria said softly. "She kept saying you were coming back. I told her I would. I always keep my promises." I sat down across from them. watching the gentle rise and fall of Elena's chest. Her teddy bear was tucked under her arm, its single-button eye gleaming in the lamplight. "You saved her life tonight," Maria said. "You saved all of us." "No." I shook my head. "She saved mine. If she hadn't warned me, I'd be dead. We'd all be dead." Maria's eyes filled with tears. "She's a special child. She's always been like that, seeing things other people miss, understanding things no child her age should understand." "She's a gift," I said. "And I'm going to make sure she never has to be afraid again." I rose to my feet, my mind already turning to the next phase of my plan. Damien was still out there, hiding in the shadows. Grace was waiting in the study, her treachery finally exposed. The night was far from over. But for the first time in years, I felt something I thought I'd lost forever, that I felt hope that I left Maria and Elena to their rest and made my way back to the study. The guardias stepped aside as I approached, their faces fully neutral. Grace was sitting in one of the leather chairs, her hands bound behind her back. She'd stopped crying, stopped pleading. Her face was pale, but there was a hard glint in her eyes that I recognized. She was still fighting. She was still trying to figure out a way out. "Grace," I said, sitting across from her. "We need to talk. I have nothing to say to you." "That's fine. You don't need to say anything. You just need to listen." I leaned forward, my eyes boring into hers. "I know about your deal with the Russians. I know about the money, the promises, the plans you made behind my back. And I know that you were never going to share power with anyone. You were going to take everything for yourself." She didn't deny it. She didn't even try. "What are you going to do to me?" she asked, her voice flat. "Nothing. I'm going to let you go." She blinked, confusion flickering across her face. "What? You heard me? You're free to leave. Go back to your life. Go back to your scheming. I don't see a re." I stood up, walking toward the window. "But if you ever come near me or my people again, I will destroy you. Not just kill you, destroy you. Every business, every contact, every friend you've ever had. I'll take it all away, piece by piece, until there's nothing left but ashes. Victor, please, get out." She rose slowly, her bound hands making it difficult. I gestured for the guardias to release her. They did, cutting the zip ties and stepping back. Grace stood in the middle of the room, rubbing her wrists. She looked lost, defeated, utterly broken. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "Sorry doesn't matter anymore. What matters is what you do next. Go find some peace. Go find a life that doesn't involve betrayal and murder. And pray I never see you again." She walked out of the study, without looking back. I watched her go, feeling nothing but a cold, empty satisfaction. The door closed behind her. I was alone with my thoughts, my plans, and the slow-burning rage that would not be extinguished. Damien. My brother. My betrayer. He was next. The days that followed were a blur of strategy and blood. I moved through the underworld like a ghost, dismantling the remnants of Damien's network piece by piece. His informants were turned, his safe houses raided, his money seized. The empire I had built was my weapon, and I wielded it with surgical precision that C.A. Reuter proved invaluable. The betrayal that had NEARLY destroyed us had forged something new between us, a bond that went beyond loyalty into something almost like family. He anticipated my needs before I voiced them, tracked down leads that would have taken my other men weeks to find. It was C.A. Reuter who brought me the news I'd been waiting for. "Victor," he said, entering the study without knocking. His face was flushed, his eyes bright with excitement. "We found him. We found Damien." I rose from behind my desk, every nerve in my body suddenly electric. "Where?" "An old Wari house in the meatpacking district. He's been hiding there for weeks, surrounded by a handful of loyalists. He's running SCA Red, Victor. He knows you're coming." "Good. Let him be SCA Red." I grabbed my coat from the back of the chair. "Get the team. We're ending this tonight." We moved through the city like a storm, a convoy of black SUVs cutting through the night traffic. The Wari house loomed ahead, a hulking silhouette against the Manhattan skyline. Its windows were to RK, its doors sealed. But I knew my brother. I knew the kind of rat he was, and I knew exactly where he'd be hiding. Perimeter secure, CA Ruta reported, his EA piece crackling. We've got eyes on every exit. He's not getting out.
Good.
I'm going in alone. Victor, that's insane. He's got at least a dozen men in there.
Exactly.
And they're going to be expecting an heir May. They're not going to expect me. I walked through the Wari House main entrance without breaking stride. The door was unlocked, a desperate oversight born of panic. I pushed it open and stepped into the cavernous interior, my footsteps echoing against the concrete walls. Damien? I called out. I know you're here. Come out and face me like a man. Silence. Then the sound of scuffling from somewhere above me. I looked up and saw my brother standing on a metal catwalk, a rifle clutched in his trembling hands. Victor, he said, his voice cracking. You shouldn't have come. You never did have any imagination, did you? Damien, always running, always hiding. You could have had everything. I gave you a second chance, and you threw it away because you couldn't stand to see me succeed. Success, he laughed, a bitter, hollow sound. You call this success? You're a monster, Victor. You've always been a monster. Everything you touch, you destroy. Everyone who gets close to you ends up dead or broken. I climbed the stairs slowly, deliberately, my eyes never leaving his face. That's rich, coming from the man who tried to blow up 200 innocent people just to get to me. The bombs weren't supposed to, he stopped himself, his face going pale, weren't supposed to kill everyone in the room. That's exactly what they were designed to do. You signed the death warrants of every guest at that party. Women.
Children.
Servants who had never done anything to you. I reached the top of the stairs and stopped, a few feet away from him. You're the monster, Damien, not me. He raised the rifle, aiming it at my chest. His hands were shaking so badly I could hear the metal rattling against itself. Stay back, he warned. I'll shoot you. I swear or I will. You won't. You're a coward, and cowards don't pull triggers. They always find someone else to do their dirty work. Shut up. He fired a wild shot that went wide, ricocheting off the concrete wall. I didn't flinch, you see, I said, moving closer. You can't even hit a target from 10 feet away. You were always weak, Damien. Always jealous, always scheming, always reaching for something you never deserved. Deserved, his voice cracked again, the rifle wavering. I deserved everything. I was the oldest. The empire should have been mine. It wasn't yours because you couldn't handle it. You don't have the stomach for this life, and you never did. The only reason you're still alive is because I was too sentimental to put you down years ago. That hit him. I saw the fury flash in his eyes, the desperate rage of a man who'd been told his entire life that he wasn't enough. You think you're so superior, he spat. You think you're untouchable. But I've seen you, Victor. I've seen the way you look at that little girl, that maid's daughter. You've gone soft. You've forgotten what it means to be a Kane. I haven't forgotten anything. I stepped closer, close enough now to see the sweat beading on his forehead, the frantic pulse jumping in his throat. I'm not soft. I'm just remembering what it means to protect the people who matter. And you, Damien, you don't matter. You never did. He screamed and pulled the trigger. The bullet tore through my jacket, grazing my side. I felt the burn of it, the RMTH of blood seeping through the fabric. But I didn't stop. I grabbed the rifle and wrenched it from his hands, snapping the BA over my knee. He stumbled backway, his eyes wide with terror. Please, he begged. Please don't kill me. I'll do anything. I'll leave the country. I'll never come back. Just let me live. You already used your second chance, brother. I pulled out my pistol and pressed it against his forehead. You had 12 years to prove you'd changed. 12 years to show me that I was right to spar you. And what did you do? You tried to kill me. You tried to take everything I'd built. He was crying now, ugly sobs that shook his entire body.
I'm sorry. I'm so sorry.
Victor, please. I'm not going to kill you, I said. His face lit up with desperate hope. You're not, no. I'm going to do something worse. I lowered the pistol and stepped back. I'm going to make you watch as I take everything away from you. Every dollar, every contact, every shred of power you thought you had. I'm going to destroy your entire world, piece by piece, and then I'm going to leave you with nothing but the knowledge that you brought it all on yourself. I turned and walked away, leaving him crumpled on the catwalk, weeping like a child. He called after me, screaming my name, but I didn't look back. I had bigger things to deal with. I had an empire to run, and I had a promise to keep. Elena was waiting for me. I didn't sleep that night. The adrenaline was still coursing through my veins, relentless current that refused to let me rest. Instead, I sat in my private study, STA ring at the monitors that showed every corner of the estate. The Wari House raid had been a success. Damien was broken, his network shattered, his allies scattered like leaves in a storm. But the hollow feeling in my chest told me that victory wasn't enough. Not anymore. CA Reuter found me there just before dawn, a cup of black coffee in his hand. He set it down on the desk without a word, then stood waiting, his hands clasped behind his back. Say it, I said. Whatever it is, just say it. Damien's being processed. We've got him in a holding cell until we decide what to do with him. The Russians have gone underground, but we're tracking their movements. They won't try anything again, not after what happened. And Grace, gone. Desape read. We tracked her to the airport, but she used a false passport and slipped through. She could be anywhere by now. Let her go. She's not worth the effort. I picked up the coffee and took a sip. It was bitter, just the way I liked it. What about the others, the ones who helped her, dealt with? Every last one of them. He hesitated. Victor, there's something else. Ria wants to see you. She says it's important. I nodded and rose from my chair. The morning light was beginning to filter through the windows, painting the study in shades of gold and amber. It was going to be a beautiful day. Strange, how the world could be so peaceful when everything inside me was still churning. Ria was waiting in the servants' quarters, her face drawn with exhaustion. Elena was asleep on the cot beside her, her small body curled around her teddy bear. The sight of her made something twist in my chest. Mr. Victor, Ria said, rising to her feet. Thank you for coming. What is it, Ria? You all right? Is Elena? She's fine. She's been asking for you, but she's fine. It's not about her. She took a deep breath, steeling herself. I need to tell you something. Something I should have told you years ago. I sat down across from her, waiting. The tension in the room was palpable, thick enough to cut with a knife. When my husband died, she began, I thought I'd never love anyone again. He was a good man, a kind man. He died in an accident, a construction site collapse. I was left alone with a baby on the way, and nothing to my name. I remember, I said. That's why I gave you the job.
Right.
You gave me a chance when no one else would. And I was grateful. I still am. She looked down at her hands, which were trembling slightly. But when Elena was born, I was SCA red. I was so SCA red of losing her, of failing her, that I made a terrible mistake. What kind of mistake? She met my eyes, and I saw the truth there before she spoke it aloud. It hit me like a physical blow. Victor, she said softly, Elena isn't my husband's daughter. She's yours. The words hung in the air between us, impossible and undeniable. I felt the world tilt beneath me, the walls of the room closing in. What are you talking about? My voice was Hoa Arsi. Ba Relia whisper. That's not possible. Remember the night of the gala? 7 years ago you were drunk. You'd just found out about your son's death, and you were grieving. I was working late, and you came down to the kitchen. You needed someone to talk to. You needed someone to hold. And she broke off, tears streaming down her face. I was weak. I should have stopped you, but I didn't. And then you left, and I never told you. I replayed that night in my head, searching for the memory.
The pain.
The whiskey. The rmth of a woman's arms around me, comforting me in a way that nothing else could. I'd assumed she was a paid companion, someone I'd hired to help me forget my grief. It was you, I said slowly. That night. It was you.
Yes.
And I tried to tell you, but you were so broken. so lost. I didn't want to add to your pain, so I kept it secret. I told everyone she was my husband's daughter, and I raised her on my own. I looked at Elena, still sleeping peacefully on the cot. Her dark hair, her solemn eyes, the fierce loyalty that burned in her tiny heart.
She had my eyes.
She had my stubbornness. She had my soul, and I had never known. Why are you telling me this now? I asked. After all these years, because I almost lost her tonight. When the Russians grabbed her, when they held a gun to her head, I thought I'd never see her again. And all I could think about was that she deserved to know the truth. She deserves to know her father. Maria reached out and took my hand, her grip surprisingly strong. I know I have no right to ask you for anything, but I'm begging you, Victor. Please be her father. She needs someone to protect her. She needs you. I read at the child, who is my daughter. The child I'd threatened to kill for, the child I'd already loved without knowing why. And I realized that all my life, I'd been searching for something I couldn't name, a purpose, a legacy, a reason to keep fighting, and here it was. Sleeping in a cot, clutching a battered teddy bear, with one missing eye. Does she know? I asked. No. I never told her. I was going to wait until she was older, but don't. I squeezed her hand, my voice firm. Don't say anything yet. Let me earn the right to be her father first. Maria looked at me with a mixture of relief and wonder. You're not angry. Angry, I'm furious. I'm furious at myself for not realizing it sooner, for being so blind. I let out a shaky laugh. But I'm not angry at you. You did what you had to do to protect her. I understand that. Elena stirred on the cot, her eyes fluttering open. She looked at me, and a slow smile spread across her face. Mr. Victor, she said sleepily. You came back. Of course I came back, little one. I knelt beside her, my heart aching with a love I'd never thought myself capable of. I'll always come back. She reached out and touched my face, her small fingers tracing the lines of worry and sorrow that had been revered there over the years. You look tired. You should sleep. Soon, I promised. But first, I want to tell you something. Something important. What is it? I looked at Maria, who nodded her permission. Then I turned back to Elena, my eyes burning with unshed tears. I'm your father, I said softly. I should have been there from the beginning. I should have protected you, been there for your first steps, your first words. I made a mistake and I'm so sorry. But I'm going to make it up to you. I'm going to be the father you deserve. Elena didn't look surprised. She just smiled, as if she'd known all along. I know, she said. I always knew. How she tapped her chest, right over her heart. I felt it here. I always felt it. I pulled her into my arms and held her, feeling her small body against mine. She was so tiny, so fragile, so full of love and trust. How had I ever been so blind, Elena? I said, my voice cracking. I love you. I've loved you since the moment I saw you, even if I didn't know why. I love you too, Daddy. She pulled back and looked at me, her eyes bright with joy. Can I call you Daddy? Nothing would make me happier. She hugged me again, and I felt the last of the darkness inside me begin to lift. I had a daughter. I had a family. And I was never going to let anyone take that away from me. Not ever again. The estate had never felt like home. Not really. It was a fortress, a monument to power and ambition, built with blood money and maintained by people who feared me. But in the weeks that followed the revelation about Elena, something changed. The cold walls seemed warmer, the empty corridors less hollow. There was laughter in the kitchen now, and the sound of small feet pattering across the marbly floors. Elena had moved into the main house. It was my decision, and Maria had agreed without hesitation. She'd always known, I realized, that this moment would come. She'd always known that eventually, the truth would surface and her daughter would take her rightful place. I watched Elena explore her new room, a suite I'd had decorated in soft pinks and creams, with a canopy bed and more stuffed animals than any child could possibly need. She spun in the center of the room, her arms outstretched, her face radiant with joy. "Do you like it?" I asked, leaning against the doorframe. "I love it." She ran to me and threw her arms around my legs. "It's the most beautiful room I've ever seen." "I'm glad." I knelt down and hugged her, breathing in the sweet scent of her hair. "But there's something else I need to tell you. Something important." "What is it?" "STA rooting next week. You're going to be going to school. A very special school with the best teachers and the SMA rudest children. You're going to learn everything you need to know to run this world someday." Her eyes widened. "But I'm just a little girl. I don't know how to run a world." "You will. You're going to be the most powerful person in New York someday. Maybe even the world." I smiled, brushing a strand of hair from her face. "But first, you have to learn how to read. And do math. And make friends." She giggled. "That sounds fun." "Good. Because I'm going to be there for every single step." I looked into her eyes, making sure she understood. "I'm never going to miss a moment, Elena. I promise you that." The school I'd chosen was one of the most exclusive in the country, a private academy that catered to the children of the elite. It was also the most secure, with layers of protection that would keep my daughter safe from anyone who might want to harm her. The first day arrived faster than I'd expected. I stood in the grand foyer, watching Elena adjust her new uniform. She looked impossibly small, impossibly precious, standing there with her backpack slung over her shoulder and her teddy bear tucked under her arm. "Daddy," she said, looking up at me with those big RK eyes. "Are you going to be there when I come home?" "I'll be waiting right here," I promised. "Every single day." She hugged me tightly, then took Maria's hand and walked out the door. I watched them go, feeling a lump form in my throat. Ca Rudo Ape read at my side, his expression unreadable. "You know they're going to talk," he said quietly. "The other parents, the teachers, they're going to ask questions about who she really is. Let them ask." I turned away from the door, my voice cold. "Anyone who has a problem with my daughter can deal with me directly." "Victor, there's something else. I've been hearing rumors. Damien's people are getting restless. They're talking about revenge, about payback for what you did to him." "Let them talk. They don't have the nerve to do anything about it." "Maybe not. But what about Elena? She's vulnerable, Victor. She's out in the world now, exposed. If someone wanted to hurt you, I know." I cut him off, my voice sharp. "I've already thought about that. That's why I've assigned a security team to follow her everywhere. They'll be invisible, but they'll be there. No one is going to touch my daughter." Ca Rudin nodded, satisfied. "Good. I just wanted to make sure you'd thought about it. I think about it every second of every day. Elena is my priority now. Everything else is secondary." The weeks passed in a blur of routine and discovery. I watched Elena blossom at school, making friends and learning with an enthusiasm that reminded me of myself at her age. She was brilliant, stubborn, and utterly fearless, and I was falling in love with her more every day. On the first Friday of the month, I picked her up from school myself. She ran to me, her backpack bouncing, and launched herself into my arms. "Daddy, I learned how to spell my name today." "Did you show me?" She spelled it out, her tiny voice triumphant.
Elena.
"That's my girl." I swung her up into my arms and ride her to the car. "I'm so proud of you." "Are we going home now?" "Not yet. There's something I want to show you." We drove to a part of the city I hadn't visited in years, the old neighborhood where I'd grown up. The buildings were dilapidated, the streets lined with memories I'd tried to forget. But I wanted Elena to see where I'd come from. I wanted her to understand what I'd built and why. "This is where I grew up," I said, gesturing to the cracked pavement and the faded storefronts. It wasn't easy. I didn't have a father. I didn't have anyone. But I made something of myself, and I did it alone. Elena looked around, her eyes wide. "It's not very pretty." "No, it's not. But it's where I learned to fight. It's where I learned to survive." I knelt down and took her hands in mine. "I'm going to give you everything I didn't have. A home, a family, a future. You're never going to have to fight for anything, because I'll fight for you. She hugged me tightly, her small body trembling. I love you, Daddy. I love you too, Elena. More than anything in the world. That night, I tucked her into her canopy bed and kissed her forehead. She was already half asleep, her teddy bear tucked under her arm. Daddy, she mumbled. There's still bad people out there, sometimes, I admitted. But I'll always protect you, no matter what. Promise, promise. She smiled and closed her eyes, drifting off to sleep. I stood there for a long time, watching her breathe, feeling the weight of the world settle on my shoulders. I was Victor Kane, the most powerful man in New York. I had built an empire from nothing and crushed everyone who stood in my way. But none of that mattered compared to this. This small, sleeping child who had become the center of my universe. I would burn the world to keep her safe. And if anyone tried to hurt her, they would learn exactly what that meant. A month passed.
2.
The estate had become a home in ways I'd never anticipated. Maria had moved into a suite adjacent to Elena's, and the three of us had fallen into a rhythm that felt almost normal. Breakfast together, walks in the gardens, bedtime stories that I read with growing enthusiasm. I had missed so much of her life, and I was determined to make up for every lost moment. But the underworld doesn't sleep, and neither do its enemies. It was a Tuesday afternoon when C.A. Reuter burst into my study, his face ashen. He didn't bother with pleasantries, and that alone told me something was terribly wrong. Victor, there's been a threat. A message. It came through one of our informants. He handed me a folded piece of paper, and I opened it with hands that were steady despite the sudden pounding of my heart. The message was brief, written in block letters that betrayed no hint of its author. Asterisk, you took everything from me. Now I'm going to take everything from you. Watch your back. Watch your daughter. The reckoning is coming. Asterisk, I read it twice, then a third time, my mind racing through the list of possible suspects. Damien was still in custody, locked away in a private facility that no one could find. But his network had been vast, and there were plenty of people who might want revenge for his downfall. Do we know who sent this? I asked. Not yet. We're tracing it, but whoever wrote it was C.A. Riefel. No prints, no DNA, no digital footprint.
Carter hesitated.
Victor, this could be anyone. One of Damien's old lieutenants, a Russian survivor, even someone from Grace's network. Or it could be Grace herself. I crumpled the paper in my fist. She promised she'd be back. I should have killed her when I had the chance. Maybe, but we can't assume anything. The important thing is that we take this seriously. Elena needs more protection. She needs to be kept off the radar until we figure out who's behind this. I nodded, my jaw tight. Pull her out of school. Move her to a safe house. I want a team on her 24/7. I've already STA route, making arrangements. But Victor, there's something else. The informant who delivered the message, he's dead. Killed less than an hour after he handed it over. Where was he found? His appartement. Throat slit. No sign of forced entry. C.A. Reuter's voice was grim. Someone wanted to make sure he couldn't tell us anything. I stood up and walked to the window. STA ring out at the manicured gardens that had become my refuge. The world outside was bright and peaceful, but I knew the darkness was closing in. It always did to double the security on the estate, I said. I want every entrance covered, every blind spot eliminated. No one gets in or out without my approval. Already done. C.A. Reuter, thank you. I know I don't say it enough, but I appreciate everything you've done. Everything you've sacrificed. He looked STA riled, then nodded. We're family, Victor. That's what family does. The words hit me harder than I expected. Family. I had spent so many years pushing people away, believing that trust was weakness, that love was a liability. But C.A. Reuter had proven me wrong. Maria had proven me wrong. Elena had proven me wrong. Did I turn back to the window? I want to see Elena before she moves to the safe house. Of course. I'll bring her to you. She came a few minutes later, her small hand clasped in Maria's. She was wearing a pink dress, Her hair pulled back in a ponytail, her teddy bear tucked under her arm. She looked so innocent, so unaware of the danger that surrounded her. "Daddy," she said, running to me. "CA Reuter said I'm going on a trip. A surprise trip." I knelt down and took her in my arms. "That's right, little one. You're going to stay somewhere special for a while. Somewhere with a big garden and lots of toys. Will you be there? Not at first. But I'll come and visit as soon as I can. I promise." She looked at me with those dark eyes that saw everything. "Are you in danger, Daddy? No more than usual." I tried to smile, but it felt hollow. "I've been in danger my whole life. I'm very good at getting out of it. I want to stay with you. I want to protect you. You're my little protector, aren't you?" I hugged her tightly, breathing in the scent of her. "But this time, you need to let me protect you."
Can you do that for me?
She nodded reluctantly. "Okay, Daddy. But you have to promise me you'll come back." "I promise. Nothing in this world could keep me away from you." Maria stepped forward, her face pale but determined. "I'll stay with her. I won't leave her side." "Good. I'll send updates through CA Reuter. If anything happens, if you sense anything wrong, I'll call you immediately." She took Elena's hand. "We'll be safe, Victor. I'll make sure of it." I watched them leave, my heart twisting in my chest. It was the hardest thing I'd ever done, letting her go. But I knew it was necessary. Elena was my vulnerability, my weakness, and I couldn't protect her properly if she was here, in the middle of the storm. The safe house was a converted farmhouse in upstate New York, surrounded by acres of empty land that made approach impossible without detection. I'd had it prepared months ago, just in case. Now it was a sanctuary for my daughter. I pulled out my phone and dialed CA Reuter. "I want round-the-clock surveillance on the safe house. If anyone so much as looks at it the wrong way, I want to know." "Already done, boss." "And Victor, there's something else. We found Grace. We're back in the city. She's been living in a penthouse on the Upper East Side, under an assumed name. She's been meeting with people. Old contacts, people who might want to help her. Bring her in. I want to have a conversation with her." "What kind of conversation?" "The kind that ends with her telling me everything she knows." I pocketed my phone and walked toward the door. "And if she doesn't want to talk, remind her that I have very creative ways of making people see operate." The hunt was on, and this time, I wasn't going to show any mercy. The penthouse was everything I'd expected. Opulent, cold, and utterly devoid of any real warmth. Grace had always had a taste for the finer things, but she'd never understood that luxury without meaning was just expensive emptiness. My men had secured the building before I arrived. No RMS, no witnesses. Just the soft click of locks being picked and the muffled sounds of Grace's security team being neutralized. By the time I walked through the door, she was waiting for me in the living room, her hands cuffed behind her back, her face a mask of defiance. "Victor," she said, her voice steady despite everything. "I should have known you'd find me. You should have known I'd never stop looking." I sat down across from her, my eyes never leaving her face. "You've been busy, Grace. Meeting with old contacts, rebuilding your network. Did you really think I wouldn't notice?" I wasn't trying to hide. I was trying to survive. "Survive? You're the one who sta root this war. You're the one who plotted to kill me and everyone I love." I leaned forward, my voice dropping to a whisper. "And now you're threatening my daughter." She looked genuinely confused. "What are you talking about? I never threatened Elena." "The message. The one that came through my informant. Watch your back. Watch your daughter." "That wasn't you, no. I know better than to make threats I can't back up." She met my eyes, and for a moment, I saw something that might have been sincerity. "I'm not your enemy, Victor. I never was. I was just caught up in something I couldn't control." "Caught up? You planned the whole thing. You manipulated CA Reuter, you worked with the Russians, I did what I had to do to survive." Her voice cracked slightly. "You don't understand what it's like, being a woman in this world. Being seen as nothing more than a pretty accessory, a convenient bed warmer. I wanted power. I wanted respect. I thought I could get it by playing the game your way. And look where that got you. Nowhere. I know. She looked down at her hands. But I didn't send that message. I wouldn't threaten a child. Even I have limits. I studied her for a long moment, trying to decide if she was telling the truth. Everything I knew about Grace told me she was capable of anything. But the desperation in her eyes, the genuine confusion, it made me hesitate. Who? Then I asked. Who else wants me dead badly enough to target my daughter? I don't know. But I can find out. She looked up at me, her eyes pleading. I have contacts. People who still owe me favors. If you let me go, I can help you figure out who's behind this. You expect me to trust you. I expect you to use me. I'm useful, Victor. That's why you kept me around in the first place, isn't it? A bitter smile crossed her face. I was never just your fiancé. I was your eyes and ears, your diplomat, your weapon. And I was good at it. Better than anyone else you've ever had. She was right. As much as I hated to admit it, she was right. Grace had been invaluable to my operation. Her network, her connections, her ability to read people and situations, it had made her one of the most dangerous people in the city. And now she was offering to use those skills for me. Let me call C.A. Reuter, I said finally. He'll set up a safe house for you. You'll be under constant surveillance, and if you try anything, I won't. I'm not stupid enough to cross you twice. I pulled out my phone and made the call. C.A. Reuter was less than thrilled, but he agreed to make the arrangements. Grace would be taken to a secure location where she'd have access to her contacts and resources. But there was a condition. If you find out who sent that message, I said, and if you find out they're connected to my daughter's safety, you bring that information to me immediately. You don't act on it yourself. You don't try to use it as leverage. You come to me. Agreed. She extended her cuffed hands, and I unlocked them. I'm going to make this right, Victor. I know I hurt you. I know I broke your trust. But I'm going to prove that I can be useful. I didn't answer. I just walked out of the penthouse and into the COL night air, feeling the weight of the city pressing down on me. Grace was a wild gay road. She could be playing me, using the threat as a way to gain my trust and escape. But she could also be telling the truth. And if she was, I needed her. The safe house was quiet when I arrived. Elena was already asleep. Her teddy bear tucked under her arm. Maria was reading in the corner, her face soft with exhaustion. She asked about you, Maria said, before she fell asleep. She wanted to know if you were coming to tuck her in. I nodded, my throat tight. I told her I would. I walked to Elena's bedside and looked down at her sleeping face.
So peaceful, so innocent.
She had no idea about the danger that lurked in the shadows, the threats that circled her like wolves. I'm going to protect you, I whispered. No matter what it takes. I kissed her forehead and slipped out of the room, my mind already working on the next move. The threat was out there, waiting. And I was going to find it before it found her. The hunt continued. And this time, there would be no mercy. It took Grace exactly 4 days to deliver the name. She called me at 3 a.m, her voice sharp with urgency. Marcus Webb, she said. Your former head of security. He's been working with remnants of the Russian network, feeding them information, planning his revenge. He wants to hit you where it hurts most. I sat up in bed, my blood running cold.
Marcus Webb.
The man I broke. The very same. He's been hiding in plain sight, building a network of his own. He was the one who sent the threat. He's been watching Elena, Leah running her routines. Where is he now? Brooklyn. An abandoned factory, NEA, the waterfront. He's got a small team, maybe half a dozen men. He's planning to make his move within the next 48 hours. Good. I swung my legs out of bed. I'm ending this tonight. The factory was a rusting hulk of steel and concrete, its windows shattered, its doors hanging from broken hinges. I'd brought a full team, but I sent them to secure the perimeter. I wanted to walk in alone. The first guard went down silently, a blade across his throat before he could raise the alarm. The second followed a moment later, his body crumpling to the floor with a sound. I moved through the darkness like the specter of death, my footsteps silent, my heart cold. Americus Webb was in the main assembly room, surrounded by his men. He was pacing, his voice raised, his ranting filling the empty space. And when I'm done, he'll understand. He'll understand what it's like to lose everything, to watch the people you love die one by one. I wouldn't plan too far ahead, I said, stepping into the light, because you're not going to live that long. The room erupted into chaos. Americus's men raised their weapons, but I was faster. I dropped the first two with shots to the chest, the third with a bullet to the head. The rest scattered, fleeing into the shadows, leaving Americus alone. You, he spat, his face contorted with rage. You monster. You took everything from me. My eye, my fingers, my dignity. I had nothing left but revenge. And now you've got nothing left at all. I advanced Tawa RD him, my pistol trained on his chest. Did you really think you could threaten my daughter and live? She's the only thing that matters to you.
I saw it.
I saw the way you looked at her, the way you protected her. I knew if I could take her away, I'd finally break you. Men like you always think they know me, but you don't. I was close enough now to see the Fia are flickering in his one good eye. I was born in the gutter. I clawed my way up from nothing. I've killed more men than you've ever met. And every single one of them thought they could destroy me. Americus tried to raise his weapon. I shot him in the shoulder before he could aim. He screamed, dropping the gun and clutching his wound. That's for the threat, I said. And this, I shot him in the other shoulder, is for making me put my daughter in danger. He collapsed to his knees, sobbing. I stood over him, my pistol still raised. Please, he begged. Please don't kill me. You're pathetic, Americus. I shook my head. You had everything. A job, a future, a life. And you threw it all away because you couldn't accept that you'd lost. I could have killed him right there. It would have been easy, satisfying, the kind of closure that the underworld demanded. But I thought of Elena, sleeping peacefully in her safe house. I thought of the future I was building for her, and I knew I couldn't fill it with more blood. Get up, I said. You're going to walk out of here and disappear. You're going to leave the city, leave the country, and you're never going to come back. If I ever see your face again, I'll kill you. Slowly, painfully. And I'll make sure you know it's coming. Victor, please, get up. He scrambled to his feet, clutching his bleeding shoulders. I watched him stumble Tawa RD the exit, a broken man with nothing left but his worthless life. It wasn't justice. But it was enough. The morning light was just beginning to break over the city when I arrived back at the safe house. Elena was already awake, sitting on the porch with her teddy bear clutched to her chest. Daddy, she ran to me, her arms open. You came back. I told you I would, little one. I swept her up into my arms and held her close. I'll always come back. Is it over, Ari? The bad people gone? It's over, I said softly. No one's going to hurt you ever again. She hugged me tightly, her small body warm against mine. I love you, Daddy. I love you too, Elena. More than anything in the world. I ride her inside and sat down on the porch, watching the sun rise over the fields. Maria joined us, her face soft with relief. It's done, I said. It's really done. She nodded, her eyes glistening with TRS. So what happens now? Now we live. I looked down at Elena, who was already dozing off in my ARs. We build a life together. A real life. And Maria reached out and took my hand. I think I'd like that. I smiled, and for the first time in YRS, it felt genuine. I was Victor Kane, and I'd spent most of my life building an empire. But none of it mattered as much as this small, sleeping child, this woman who'd trusted me with her HRT, this chance at something I'd never thought I'd have. A family. I sat there as the sun climbed higher, holding my daughter, surrounded by the people I loved. The battle was over. The war was won, and for the first time in my life, I was truly at peace. The RS passed like water through fingers, each one richer than the last. I watched Elena grow from a tiny, frightened child into a confident young woman, her laughter filling the halls of the estate that had once been so empty. She excelled at everything she touched: school, sports, music, and I was there for every moment, just as I'd promised. Ria and I ride on a spring afternoon, in the GA den where Elena had first Leah Rened to walk. Ca Ruda stood as my best man, his loyalty proven beyond any doubt. The underworld still existed, still churned with its endless cycles of power and betrayal, but I'd stepped back from the day-to-day operations. Ca Ruder ran the empire now, and he ran it well. I was a consultant, an advisor, a ghost in the machine. But more than that, I was a father. I was a husband. I was a man who had finally found something worth living for. On Elena's 16th birthday, she stood in the grand ballroom where it had all begun. The night she'd whispered her warning, the night she'd saved my life. She wore a gown of deep crimson, her arche hair cascading over her shoulders, and she was the most beautiful thing I'd ever seen. "Daddy," she said, taking my hand, "I want to thank you for everything, for being there, for protecting me, for never giving up." "You don't have to thank me," I said, my voice thick with emotion. "You gave me something I never thought I'd have. You gave me a reason to be a better man." She hugged me tightly, and I felt the TRS prick in my eyes. "I love you, Daddy. I love you too, Elena. More than you'll ever know." The party went on late into the night, filled with laughter and music and the RMTH of family. I watched Elena dance with her friends, watched Ria smile at me from across the room, and felt a profound sense of peace settle over me. The past was gone. The battles were over. The future was bright, and I was Victor Kane, and I had finally found my redemption. Not in power, not in wealth, but in the love of a child who had changed everything. A child who had taught me that even the darkest soul could Leah RN to love. A child who had given me a second chance at life.